It's just a public service announcement. Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Ho, H to the O-V. I used to move snowflakes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the premiere episode of Pro Sports Takes, where we make our takes on the future of sports.
And this is PSO's first show, so we're coming out to make statements, not sentences. On this platform, we plan on elaborating on why the biggest topics in sports can affect the near future of the game. At the end of the day, we're not here to be conservative or make safe takes, but to make bold predictions that are actually likely to happen.
And as you can see from the title, this is all about why we believe sports will be back and bigger than ever. During this time, there's going to be some, let's say, pessimistic people out there who might think that the continuous rise that's been happening in sports throughout the 21st century might slow down, and some that believe sports will never reach the height and popularity it had with everything going on in the world. And in 2020, those people might be right because we still don't even know if seasons will go smoothly or conclude correctly. But our first official take in pro sports take history is that sports will not only be back, but they'll be better than ever over the next decade. Most of our sports takes will be about the actual game or specific teams and players, but with everything going on right now and the uncertainty surrounding sports at this time, we felt there was no better place to start this show than to share our perspective on the future of sports and why it's going to continue to progress. For me, being without sports for almost 6 months has seriously been just ass. And I'm sure that's been the case for plenty of sports fans out there. But when those games come back on, it's going to inspire hope again, bring a sense of normalcy back to society, and give people something to cheer for again. And this whole COVID situation has obviously affected much, much more than just sports. So there's going to be so many people who aren't able to do what they normally do, whether that's go to the gym or go to the library or participate in their rec league or whatever it is, and now has an opportunity to watch sports because it's going to be the main source of entertainment out there, and become a fan and really see their fandom continue to develop as sports gets back to normal over the coming years. But the main reason why I believe sports is going to rise significantly by 2030, regardless of what happens this year, is because of two letters: VR. Virtual reality has massive untapped potential in the sports industry. I mean, when you think about it, tickets to games cost hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars. Being able to witness your favorite athletes and teams up close and personal is something every fan dreams of. And while VR won't have that same feeling, it's pretty damn close. I've been doing some research myself and see that they have the technology right there. They've tested it out and just have to continue to develop it before it becomes available to the mainstream market. And VR is something that will become more appealing to society as a whole over the next 5 to 10 years as it becomes more common. And once it hits the sports space, there's going to be no looking back. And it can really turn the most casual fan into someone who thoroughly enjoys putting on those glasses and watching the greatest athletes in the world go to battle as if it's unfolding right in front of them. And that alone will be a major reason why sports will be bigger than ever by the end of the 2020s.
So yeah, this is an interesting time for us to be having this discussion. Obviously, nobody expected for us to be in the middle of a pandemic, for social activism to be at an all-time high. But I think it'll have a positive impact on sports at the end of the day. And when it comes to sports, there'll always be the dedicated fans who say they might sway away or not watch for whatever political or whatever social reason, but they'll always really come back. Like, sports passion is beyond any other type of passion. But I want to focus on the future of sports, such as how the effects of technology, location, and even potential expansion will have on the leagues. As these younger generations continue to get older, everything technologically will start to advance. So expect sports to change with the times, such as implementing virtual reality, as you said, Rob. Maybe rope umpires they've been talking about in the MLB, whatever your mind desires, but there's always ways that the game can be improved, especially when it comes to officials. Sports are already making initiatives to make global movements, such as the NBA in Africa, the NFL in London, and even though it's been there for a while, the rise of baseball during the pandemic, such as the Korean Baseball League. But with the top three sports in America growing national influence, it's just a matter of time before a team makes a move to a foreign country other than Canada. So just don't sleep on the possibility of leagues expanding and adding teams, especially as the rules change. As the NFL just implemented tons of rules, such as adding a playoff team to each division, which takes away a bye from each division as well. The betting industry has really taken off. It's brought sports to an all-time high, and it's not even legal across America at this time. But that hasn't stopped people from betting on everything, which brings more viewership. And as we talk about viewership, those numbers are really skewed because there's a ridiculous amount of people that watch sports together or they use streaming services. The pandemic is really just causing recency bias. At the end of the day, this will all be over and everyone will be back into the stands, packed in, ready to watch their teams get another dub. And I think the biggest impact really has came monetarily, as you've seen some teams such as the A's be able to struggle paying for rent at their stadium, and employees have been losing jobs, which might make them try to go to careers that are more stable, they might recognize. But I think when it comes down to the end of the day, sports is really going to keep elevating as technology elevates, as the society elevates, as everything elevates. Sports is already at the top. It's the number one leisure activity there is in the world, and it's only going to grow and expand from here.
There you go. So as you continue to see, negative news about ratings declining or this people not wanting to watch sports because of political activism or this or that or whatever you see, just realize that it's a short-term thing and that because of what we covered today, the technological advancements, the league expansion as Brandon covered, and the sports betting as that continues to become legalized across the nation, there's going to be so many avenues and reasons as to why sports are going to continue to get bigger, the brands are going to expand, and that sports just in general is going to be a much more popular events and activity than it even is today. And that right there is our first take, and we'll be able to look back on this and see, hey, we were either idiots and thought that sports was going to get bigger even though it declines a lot, or bam, we hit the jackpot and we knew it was going to continue to rise and be bigger and better than ever. And that's what's going to be so exciting about this show, is that we get to make these takes that we've kind of been doing almost our whole life, it seems like. But now everything is going to be on the record. And of course, we're not going to be 100% with these. We're going to get some wrong. But I think for us, our goal is to be, one, more right than wrong, and two, more right than anyone else out there. I know that's what my goal is. I'm sure I can speak for you, Brandon. I think we're both trying to achieve that. So I think it's going to be exciting just for us to be able to look back on this stuff. And I think it's going to be exciting to have, fans be able to interact and engage as well and be able to comment on this video or make their own take and be able to look back, in 2022 or 2029. Like someone's listening to this right now in 2035. And they have a completely different perspective than we have now. And they're going to be able to kind of see, what the thoughts were at the time. So I'm very excited for this and really looking forward to having you guys follow along. But real sports are back on Thursday, MLB Opening Day, the latest MLB Opening Day in history. And that's the thing about this season is it's unlike any other. And because it's only 60 games and with the NLDH and potential coronavirus injuries, all of these things, this is going to be the most unpredictable season ever. So I refuse to concretely pick a champion this year because honestly, nobody knows who the fuck could win it all. But today's take is about which team has an improved chance of being crowned world champs because of the unprecedented circumstances surrounding this season. Every team favorited to win back in March, like the Dodgers and the Yankees, saw their odds decrease with the chaos that could happen now, and teams not favorited to win saw their odds increase because the smaller sample size of games allow for much more unpredictable results to happen. One thing that does seem concrete this year is the importance of depth. And there is no team in baseball with more starting caliber position players and pitching staff members ready to effectively start games than the Tampa Bay Rays. Tampa Bay is obviously never a sexy pick to win anything because, they're in a small market and lack star power, but the ceilings of their trio atop the rotation over a 60-game season could be just as good as anyone, with Charlie Morton, Tyler Glasnow, and Blake Snell all realistically having the potential to win the Cy Young this year, not to mention the young trio they have in their lineup of Austin Meadows and Hunter Renfroe, Willie Adames. So they could all catch fire over 60 games and allow their natural talent to carry them through an overachieving season. While Tampa Bay is obviously no New York Yankees or Houston Astros as a proven contender, they do have some playoff experience and almost beat Houston last year in the ALDS in that 5-game series. They've had a great trajectory over the last 4 years. They went from 68 wins in 2016 to 80 in 2017, all the way up to 90 in 2018, and then 96 last year. Obviously, that resulted in the wild card. And one thing that actually helps them in a season like this is they're used to playing with little to no fans and not only succeeding in that kind of atmosphere that everyone's going to have to become accustomed to, but also learning last year how to thrive in a level of intensity that comes with playoff baseball. So I'm not here to declare the Tampa Bay Rays as 2020 World Series champions by any means, but I am making the take that no team has more improved chances now than what it was in March than Tampa Bay, who nobody should be surprised now if they do walk away with the franchise's first title this year.
Yeah, Rob, I like your pick. And, me and you, we're big AL East guys. And ever since the Tampa Bay Devil Rays have gotten rid of the devil part of the Rays, they have consistently given the Red Sox and the Yankees a fight for that second and third spot amongst the AL East. And with the Red Sox recovering from sanctions, trades, and losing future Hall of Famer Mookie Betts, the Orioles have been complete garbage over the last 2 years. They haven't recovered from the mid-2010s run with Buck Showalter. And the Jays are still building their way back up the AL East. But the first team that came to my mind, unfortunately, is the Houston Astros. They've been able to play down the haters with the COVID hiatus. The Stros are more determined than ever as they have set their sights on proving that they can win without cheating. And all of the guys have opted in at this point to show that they're ready and they blocked all distractions. But ultimately, I went with a small market team as well, and I went with the Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati Reds have kind of trajected on their way up, and they've done things that they've never done in the past, such as signing Mike Moustakas to a 4-year, $64 million deal, which has to be one of the highest of franchise history. Yeah. And they've gone out and copped Japanese outfielder Shogo Akiyama. So, this is a bottom-dwelling franchise. It's in a small market, and they're out here selling free agents on their vision and their future. And they also lack that fan base. So them not having the fans due to the COVID-19 hiatus, it won't really affect them as much as it'll affect teams such as the Yankees and the Dodgers and teams with big markets. And they have a big three pitching staff. They have Trevor Bauer, who's become one of the most famous players in MLB, not only for the passion that he shows on the field, but his outspoken nature about COVID-19. And he has a chance to repeat his dominant 2018 season. Sonny Gray, as we talk about big markets, him and the Yankees didn't gel well. He didn't do what he was shown that he's done in his career with the Athletics, but he's bounced back with the Cincinnati Reds, further proving that he is the type of player that thrives in this small market. Then they have Luis Castillo, who's continued to progress in his second year as a full-time pro. As a full-time starter, he's posted a 3.4 ERA, but most importantly, a 10.7 K9, proving that he has the fastball, he has the off-speed pitches that can really dice up hitters. And the first-time All-Star really has a lot of momentum building into this season, even though that he only has 60 games to show that he's that consistent figure that he's been over the last couple years. Heading into the 2020 season, the Reds were expected to face a significantly harder schedule than they'll face in the 60-game season. The Reds went from facing the mighty AL East to facing a weak AL Central. The Reds actually get to spend a third of their season playing against the garbage Royals, Tigers, and Pirates as they combine for a 36% win percentage heading into the 2020 season. And now their strength of schedule has gotten easier than any other team in the new 60-game format. So I think that these small market teams really have a chance to thrive this season, even though it's a 60-game season. Teams can get hot quickly, and I think the Rays and Cincinnati Reds have the ability to thrive and put in work this year.
Well, there you go. You got the Rays, you got the Reds, 2 R words with 4 letters. Very similar, I guess, this year in more ways than one. And we'll see how it plays out. I think neither of us are claiming that those teams are going to be crowned champions, but because of everything going on, those are 2 teams to watch out for.
There's a lot of teams that sit at the top. You got the basic Astros, you got the Yankees, you got the Dodgers, teams that are favorited. But these are teams that have a chance to climb up that ladder in this small 60-game span and really open up their chances to win a World Series that they wouldn't be able to in a natural 162-game season.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're excited for opening day. Hope you are as well. Leave your comments. Let us know your thoughts, and we'll see who you think has the most improved chances going into this season. People who know me knew this was coming because I've been on this guy from day one. Now that it's all on the record, I could just go with an easy take and say Patrick Mahomes is going to win multiple championships and multiple MVPs that would enter himself into a rare class in the all-time quarterback Mount Rushmore. But this is the third episode of Pro Sports Takes. Like Brandon said, we got to make statements, not sentences around here. So that's why take number 3 is that Patrick Mahomes will become the number 1 greatest player, not in Chiefs history, not in football history, but in sports history. I'm not talking about just the most accomplished player or just the winningest player, not just the flashiest player, not just the most awards, records, and MVPs. We're talking about everything. But let's start with the facts, okay? No player in the history of football or maybe any sport has had a better start to their career than Patrick Mahomes by winning an MVP, championship MVP, ending a 50-year title drought, setting numerous records, inking the largest contract in professional sports history. I could go on and on, all before turning 25 years old. And this is a guy who is supposed to be raw coming out of college and need time to reach his full potential, which is just a scary thought to think that he can take his game to a level higher than it already is. Obviously, nothing is certain in life, but I think it'd be more shocking or surprising to see him not live up to this potential than it would be for him to not become the GOAT at this point. The hope I have by pointing this out today is that someone sees this or hears this and realizes we could be witnessing the greatest athlete to ever play professionally, because with that knowledge, you can make a lot of money. Like, I seriously think if you just bet on Patrick Mahomes for the rest of his career, you could become a very rich person. Like, go invest in his rookie football card. It will become even more valuable. The things he's doing so early in his career, like what we talked about before with the MVP, Super Bowl MVP, 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, $500 million contract. And more important than that is really just a simple eye test. Like, everyone who knows the game of football can just watch this guy play every game and say, hey, this guy, this number 15 guy, is the best player on the field. And people who have never watched football watch him and can quickly identify who looks like the best player on the field. And I think when it's all said and done, it'll even get to the point where New England fans will have to admit that Patrick Mahomes has surpassed Brady as the GOAT, similar to how 49ers fans currently accept Brady is greater than Montana. And I'm not going to go as far as making the declaration that his team will win as many Super Bowls as the greatest coach of all time and his extremely clutch quarterback did, but I'm also not saying he won't. Now, I know it's early in his career and it might never be unanimous, but I do believe it will become very common to consider Patrick Mahomes the greatest athlete of all time when it's all said and done. And people might look back on this and be like, yeah, obviously he was going to be. But right now, there's a lot of people listening to this that think I'm crazy for making such a bold prediction. So I'm really interested to hear what you think, B.
Yeah, I don't think you're crazy for your prediction. And although Mahomes has had one of the best starts of his career compared to any athlete in sports history, it might be a stretch saying he's going to be the greatest athlete of all time. Mahomes has accomplished so much before the age of 25. He's made passes that we've never seen before. But we're talking about all three major sports here at the end of the day. When you compare him to Jordan, 6-0 finals dominance, who retired at the top of his career twice. Tom Brady, 6 rings. Shout out to NFC East for their 3-1 record versus Brady in the Super Bowl. Will Chamberlain, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, the list goes on and on. LeBron James. But I can't deny the brilliance and the game-changing presence that Mahomes brings on a gamely basis. He has 2 ridiculous weapons in Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And he also has one of the best coaches, offensive coaches in Bieniemy, who's everyone's surprised is not a head coach by now in his career. Big Red has had plenty of offensive success with legendary quarterbacks like Donovan McNabb and Michael Vick, who are also seen as game-changing or dynamic quarterbacks in their own way, especially Michael Vick, who's really one that we've never seen before in the league. But the only knock I really have on Mahomes is he barely deserved to win Super Bowl MVP this year. There can't be many quarterbacks that's thrown 2 interceptions and still came away with the MVP. He might have put up one of the worst Super Bowl MVP performances of all time, especially in the first half. But he's also the youngest quarterback ever to win Super Bowl MVP, and he really did start to come alive in the second half. But it's looking like Tom Brady is really his biggest competitor to being the best NFL player of all time. But I do see the Mahomes and Reed era having that potential of Brady and Belichick. I mean, that might be a little stretch for me to say. They've won 6 rings together, and yeah, Mahomes and Reed have just won their first, and that's Andy Reid's first Super Bowl, and he's been a coach for God knows how long. But I think Mahomes will break plenty of records. I think he'll win multiple Super Bowls, and he'll be a surefire Hall of Famer. But I actually think Aaron Donald is the best player right now in the NFL. I know that's not the discussion, but I mean, he's led the league in TFLs each of the last 2 years, and we've seen Aaron Donald change the game of football. We've never seen interior D linemen get 20-plus sacks in a season, and we've never seen teams completely change their scheme to stop one man. They'll double-team him and triple-team him because they know if it comes down to one-on-one versus him in a guard or him in the center or him even in the tackle, not many people have a chance of stopping him. But Mahomes also is changing the game with his dynamic throws, non-look passes, all that. So that's what we love to see about football nowadays.
I mean, there's a lot of things to touch on there. I mean, I think your perspective right now, being a surefire Hall of Famer and changing the game and all that, like, I think everyone believes that, and that's why this take is a bold prediction, but why I think it's likely to happen of Mahomes becoming the near unanimous, or at least the majority of people recognize him as the greatest athlete of all time when it's said and done. Like, just that last name of Mahomes just kind of have that special, feeling to people like Jordan, and, that long-lasting impact that it has. But man, when you said the Super Bowl that he barely deserved it, I feel like I know what you're saying, but like I almost think the Super Bowl is a big reason why I believe this. Like, that was without a doubt his worst performance going into that fourth quarter, and then for him to be on that stage, obviously for the first time, is probably what contributed to it. And then for him to still go back and be able to mentally overcome that adversity, deliver probably the best 8 minutes of Super Bowl history in the last 8 minutes, and consistently score on every drive they needed to, come through with that long third down throw, wasp to Tyreek Hill, and just really perform at his highest level when they needed him most. Like, the fact that he just consistently does that with his back against the wall, I think that was really what made me believe, wow, even in this moment that he'll probably never have again, because now he has experienced the Super Bowl, he has been on that big stage, he will know what that's like, he still was able to come through. So like, it seems like, and he injured himself this year. It's like, what is going to stop him? Because I really think the only thing that can stop him is injury. But then it just seemed like he was able to even overcome this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's overcame a lot of adversity, especially this year with the dislocated kneecap, I believe it was. But when I had to go back and watch the tape before I say it's one of the worst Super Bowl MVP performances.
It was until that final.
It was. But I had to go back and watch those final 8 minutes again. But when I think about that Super Bowl and that MVP performance, I think of that 3rd and 15, really at the end of the game, where it was one-on-one with Tyreek Hill running right at the safety. I think it was Jimmy Ward, and he wound up breaking him off.
Could have been, by the way, on that throw, could have been a better throw. That could have easily been a touchdown. But he did what he needed to do.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, he kind of just, but that was the biggest play, and that's why I hate, like, kind of saying this, but I don't want to knock him for that. But, like, he didn't really make that play. I think Tyreek Hill really made the play. The play call made the play, and that was the biggest play in the game.
I do agree Tyreek Hill deserves more credit for that play than Mahomes, but also the fact that now we saw in the mic'd up that Mahomes was the one that asked for that play and like was kind of essentially the play caller for that, and like knew exactly when to call that as a 24-year-old. I mean, the whole thing is just, it's special.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't mean to take anything away from the Chiefs or Mahomes, but I mean, I think Mahomes' 2 interceptions, the way that he played in the first half, he set his team up to really lose that game, in my opinion. I'm not only blaming it on him, but just the team in general did. If Kyle Shanahan wasn't such a shitty second-half coach, then I think the 49ers could have danced their way to winning their first Super Bowl in, probably since the 80s, maybe.
Yeah, I don't want to, dial in on one game, but obviously it is the most important game of his career. And like, if I were to pinpoint it to one thing, I would say Jimmy G missing Emmanuel Sanders for that game-winning touchdown. Like that to me was like either they win or lose based off that one throw, and obviously they lost it. But you still have to credit Mahomes for digging down deep, playing at such a big stage at a young age, obviously being overcome by the moment, playing his worst game, and then still finding a way to come through. It just shows like this guy's different. He's setting records left and right on and off the field, and he's just a great guy. Like I'm just betting or like putting my credibility on the line, knowing how good of a person he is and how like competitive he is and his drive to not only just be satisfied with the first win in Kansas City in 50 years, but now wanting to run it back and wanting to add to his legacy and chase Tom Brady and do all those things. So it'll be interesting.
He has the dedication. He has the drive. I mean, he has the dad. His family's obviously had success in baseball. He knows what it takes, and it seems like he's determined to do what it takes. And he's really trying to step up in that platform. And I don't think he's one of those players that once he gets paid, especially the way that he just got paid, to kind of let his performance drop after that. So I think Mahomes, the sky's the limit. And I think everybody knows that he has a really good chance of being a great player. So it's interesting to see where his career goes from here.
So if not Mahomes, who do you consider the greatest athlete of all time? Obviously, it's not Mahomes right now, but I'm saying like in 20 years.
I feel like I would have to say Jordan, especially the 6-0 record. I mean, he had a really good team, but the fact that he retired twice in his career, at the top of his career, leading the league in points, putting up 30 points per game, really doing that, like putting up 30 points per game was not very common until Jordan came along. Like he solidified doing it over and over and over again. And then he was winning not defensive MVPs, but defensive players of the year. Right. And just the way that his game was just so consistently good for so long. And he would have probably topped every single statistical category there is if he didn't sit out or retire those 2 years.
Yeah, that's the thing, though, is like obviously Jordan's such a high mountain to climb that, LeBron, the chosen one, hasn't even been able to climb that yet. But he did retire in 3 of his prime years and then another 3 years kind of where he still was performing at a high level. So, I mean, the opportunity is there for someone to catch him. And I'm just saying I don't think anyone has a better chance than Patrick Mahomes.
I can see it for sure.
All right, today is MLB Opening Day, so we're going to go with another baseball take. And no player is more important in baseball than the most valuable player. But in a 60-game season, who's going to be the MVP this year? That's the question we're going to answer today. And as you can see from the title, this is all about a player who very few would consider an MVP candidate. In fact, according to BetMGM, this guy isn't even a top 50 National League MVP candidate in 2020.
It's about to be a hot take right here.
And this is why BetMGM is going to look real stupid in a few months, okay? Ever since arriving in the National League, Nick Castellanos has quickly developed into one of the best hitters in baseball. Before, he was a doubles machine in Detroit, and all he's needed to do is turn those doubles into homers, and he'd instantly become one of the most feared hitters in the game. So how can a player turn doubles into homers? By getting stronger and adding loft to their swing. And no team in baseball is better known for getting stronger than the Cincinnati Reds, who love to show their guns in the sun and drop bombs. Castellanos joining that environment cannot go underrated, along with the fact that he'll now likely be getting plenty of days at the DH position where he can solely focus on offense and, not have to think about that error he just made at third base or an accurate throw from the outfield anymore. Puts him really in a great position to have a breakout season. And he's already hitting tanks in summer camp for those who've seen the video of Trevor Bauer and others, and really has just shown a much improved launch angle. So with a top prospect pedigree and someone who seemed always destined to be a silver slugger candidate at least, these 60 games could really give him the perfect opportunity to put it all together and compete for the MVP award while giving Joey Votto and Eugenio Suarez some much needed protection in the lineup and help this promising Reds team win some ball games this year. This is a season where any team can win it all and any player can win the MVP, understandably. But my take before opening day kicks off is that Nick Castellanos will end up being a premier MVP candidate this season.
Yeah, I think the DH factor is huge, especially since he was primarily a DH when he was playing in Detroit. So he doesn't really want to have to worry about fielding, which must not be his strong suit based off what he's done in his career. And I think he has the potential to produce power like Eugenio Suarez has recently in the last 2 years in Cincinnati. And Suarez might be a better MVP candidate for this season, especially if he cuts down on the strikeouts, which he led the league in 2019 in. But from what I've seen, he really has the tools to succeed. But with that website not considering him a top 50 MVP candidate, I think you said it was BetMGM, that's very baffling. It's not a no-brainer that he is top 20 player, but top 50, especially in only the National League. BetMGM could be losing a lot of money soon. And when you really think about it, over the last 34 years, there's only been 4 pitchers in the MLB that have won MVP. So that's looking very unlikely. Castellanos really heated up once he got traded to Chicago in the middle of last year. And there's a lot of good hitters in the NL, so it's going to be tough for him. There's the likes of Bellinger, Yelich, Acuna, Alonso, Soto, Freeman, Nolan Arenado, and let's not forget Justin Turner, who's on a contract year going into 2021. The Dodgers are a consistent playoff team, so he'll be more eligible to win the award than players on losing teams. Turner's going into a contract year this year. And Turner's been looking good this summer, so he's ready to go into the season hot. And this is only a 60-game season we're talking about. So if he comes out and outplays Cody Bellinger, who was a 2019 MVP, it'll be really hard for evaluators to deny that Turner's providing elite value to one of the best teams in the National League and the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah, Justin Turner's a good pick too. I mean, both these guys I think you want to pick up on your fantasy league this year, if not already, because these are both sleepers. I guess that's your sleeper pick, which is a very solid one. What is Justin Turner's odds? I guess we'll just use BetMGM to use a standard.
Yeah, Justin Turner is at plus 8,000.
Plus 8,000. Wow.
Yeah, it looks like he's tied with a couple of guys. Rhys Hoskins, Ozuna, Rio Muto, Trey Turner, Josh Bell, so a good amount of guys.
Okay, and then Castellanos isn't even on the list, so definitely potentially some money to be made. You know, whether you believe Castellanos or Turner could be that surprise breakout candidate for MVP, I think the underlying message that both of us are trying to get across is that don't bet on the favorite to win MVP this year. Like, there's a lot of unexpected things that are likely to happen this year, and taking one of those guys that are just plus 200 or plus 300 or 500, whatever, those are probably not going to be bets that become very fruitful, because this is going to be one of those years where a surprise guy who isn't even considered top 50 ends up winning the award. So we'll see how it plays out, but I really believe that Castellanos, with everything that he's done so far in summer camp, the way he's looked, the way he can fit in with that Reds lineup, I really see him elevating his game this year and becoming and solidifying himself as an MVP candidate.
Yeah, I think Justin Turner has a chance. Really, when you think about a 60-game season, the MVP could wind up hitting 18 home runs and having 55 RBIs. I don't know. Yeah. So, I mean, really it comes down to how these players come out at the beginning of the season, and if they can maintain it for even 45 games could really be enough to actually win MVP this year.
Yeah, that's why even just watching these summer camp games is so crucial, because we were kind of talking about this off the record, but just seeing guys go to spring training in the past, they're playing at a whole different place, whole different stadium, living in a different environment, playing against players who are probably going to be called down to AAA and obviously not getting the same level of competition. Whereas this year, they're playing in the exact same ballpark, exact same no-fan type of atmosphere. So it's like what you're doing now is probably going to be a sign of what you're going to do in the season. And both those guys, Turner and Castellanos, have looked really good so far in summer camp. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But BetMGM got something coming for you.
We're going to discuss the Eastern Conference Finals, who has the chance to make it to the finals and compete against potentially the Lakers, the Rockets, the Clippers. We're diving into who can really unseat the Bucks. And when I think it comes into this year, I think the Bucks should still be the favorite. And they will face a lot of issues when they come into the season, such as there's 3 really good teams that can compete against them: the Raptors, the Celtics, and the Heat. who are legitimate title contenders, not only Eastern Conference contenders, but legitimate title contenders. And they have the ability to throw multiple bodies at Giannis Antetokounmpo in a matchup against the Bucks. But all these teams have great coaches, but none of them have the connection and experience that the Bucks do. Although Nurse has been with the Raptors for a while, it's only his second year as head coach, and he's lost one of the best players in the NBA in Kawhi Leonard. The Raptors barely made their way through the Eastern Conference semis last year if it wasn't for Kawhi's famous rim-bouncing shot that they'll no longer have on their team. They do lack scoring, they play great defense, and they play as a team, but they don't have that superstar factor, which Kyle Lowry just isn't. I don't even want anybody to debate that with me. The Heat are a really good team, and Bam Adebayo has the best chance of guarding Giannis of anyone in the Eastern Conference. But I still think they're about a year away. I think Tyler Hero is going to develop into a really good player, and once he does, I think they might be the favorite in the East at one point in his career. But I can see the Heat as a surprise team in the East this year too. And finally, the Celtics, who really pose as the biggest threat to the Bucks because of their star power. They have the likes of Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown's really came up this year and only almost put up an all-star caliber performance this season to this point. And Gordon Hayward was really starting to show some flashbacks of the old. He's just clearly not back, but he's starting to show some flashbacks. And the team is really starting to show some promise. It could be a huge matchup in the Eastern Conference Finals, but I can't see Giannis losing that battle. The Bucks have that star power with Giannis and Middleton, but they also have the important role players that know how to do their job and that have plenty of experience along with that, with Wes Matthews, Brooke and Robin Lopez, Bledsoe, George Hill, and they even got Kyle Korver this season, who's going to knock down his threes when he gets a chance, and he's going to play in the playoffs. Hill, Matthews, and Bledsoe are all above average defenders, and the Lopez's play with maximum effort as they try to block the rim. They have young players in DiVincenzo and Connaughton who are real solid, and Dante was really starting to turn the corner before the hiatus happened. I basically went through the whole roster at this point. With the pandemic, they've had a huge break, and when you come out of a huge break or you come out of a situation that you've never faced before in your career, you want to make sure you have a great coach, and they have that in Budenholzer, who's been experienced for a while, who brought the best out of the Hawks. And their best player is a determined player. When you think of Giannis, he doesn't train with other players in the offseason because he likes coming at guys' throats. And that's kind of the difference between him and LeBron, maybe in the say. I don't want to come at LeBron because I know you LeBron fans, haters, will be commenting all over this. But Giannis has that killer instinct. And when you pair that with a great coach who really knows what he's doing, I think they deserve to still be the favorites.
Yeah, so yesterday we talked about the MLB MVP, so go check that out if not already. But today we're talking about the NBA's MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's right, I know how to say it after 23 tries. But Giannis is going to win MVP this year. That is obvious. It seemed like LeBron kind of had an outside chance at coming back down the stretch, but with only 8 regular season games left now, that's just not possible. So we can crown the Greek Freak with his second consecutive MVP, no doubt. But my take today is, like last year, that will be the only MVP he'll be winning, as the finals MVP will be won by a different star player. Before the season suspension, the Bucks had the best, or at least the top 3 chance at competing for the title this year with their continuity and continued improvement as a squad as a whole. They were looking like the clear-cut Eastern Conference champion this year. I even made a bet that they would come out of the East because it was really looking that inevitable. But here we are 5 months later, and I believe no team's chances have declined more than the Bucks itself, and here's why. It really all starts with the Greek god himself. He'll still be able to bully his way to the cup and play lights-out defense for sure, but what elevated Milwaukee into true title contenders and Giannis into arguably the best player in the game is the development of his outside shot, as he's making twice as many threes this year than he did last year. But make no mistake about it, Giannis is not a natural shooter. Getting those consistent reps in and building confidence in his shot on a daily basis is huge for him to be the high-level player he's become. Without that, the Bucks could seriously struggle in the playoffs. And while many players like LeBron or Lillard said they've been able to still get their jump shots in during the time off, it caught headlines when Giannis said he had absolutely no access to any hoop during the shutdown for at least a month or two. That's a real concern. Like if someone like Steph Curry takes some time off from shooting, it's like riding a bike. Once you hop back on, the swishes will come. But a player like Giannis doesn't have that benefit and will really need time to get that shooting stroke back to what it was. Not to mention his partner in crime, Chris Middleton, is another player who stated that he had no access to a hoop during the hiatus as well. So I don't know how they're going to be able to recover from that, but the Bucks' chemistry might not come back to the level it was during the season either, because that was really a big strength that they had that who knows how it's going to reform after 5 months off. So it really seems like this whole situation has evened the playing field somewhat, giving lesser teams a better chance and better teams less of a chance. And my take is that no team has seen their chances decline more than Milwaukee, and they should not be considered the favorite anymore.
Understandable. And I know you talked about Giannis and him not being able to continue his trajectory of becoming a better three-point shooter. But I know last year, obviously, the Bucks didn't make it over the hump. They ran into the Raptors, who they lost in, I believe, 6 games last year to the Kawhi-led Raptors, like I said. But the Bucks really got there because they were really good at spacing the court. They would let Giannis bring the ball down the court, do his thing, but they would be able to dish it out to three-point shooters. I know Brook Lopez was shooting really good last year. Even Ersan Ilyasova was hitting his shots. Connaughton. They had a good amount of shooters last year. George Hill is a really good shooter. So do you think if Giannis can't hit his threes, you think that will kind of deteriorate their ability for Budenholzer to kind of change the switch or go back to kind of what he did last year?
Yeah, I just think it's kind of detrimental to their whole style of play. Like him at least being a threat from the three-point line makes defenses kind of come and guard him, not be able to sag off. And obviously they've surrounded him very well with shooters like Brook Lopez and bigs who can be able to hit those three-point shots. But him really hitting that jump shot, I think, is such a big X factor to their ability to win. But when it comes to this kind of situation, I look at the other teams, like a team like the Miami Heat, who usually really would have little chance with no continuity, no playoff experience. But those factors have pretty much been completely eliminated in an environment like this. Plus, Miami plays in Florida, so like they're used to all those palm trees and nice weather, so they're ready to work. I mean, we heard the story of Jimmy Butler dribbling the basketball in his hotel room, whereas a team like Milwaukee, you know, they could be enjoying those things a little more than the others, and every little thing makes a difference when the race is this close. I really don't think any team has a specific edge. I'm not saying the Bucks aren't favorites and this team is favorites. I really believe that any top 5 team in the East could play in the finals this year. I just really am trying to get out that the belief that the Bucks winning the East was inevitable, I don't think that really stands anymore.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the end of episode 5. Rob thinks that the Bucks' chances have deteriorated as we go into this newfound that situation that nobody has ever faced before. And I think that the Bucks have the ability to withstand and still fight to having a good playoff chance. Either way, I think we both agree that the Bucks had the top chance no matter what if there was not the hiatus, if the pandemic didn't hit, especially in the Eastern Conference. But that's our takes. The Bucks, they're going to be battling it out in the Eastern Conference, and we'll see if they come out on top or if we see they forward the teams like the Sixers, the Heat, the Celtics, many more. So we'll see what happens in the Eastern Conference Finals, and we'll see if anybody can unseat the Clippers or the Lakers or the Rockets in the Western Conference.
Yeah, these are post-pandemic takes out here, so that's what we got to adjust to the circumstances, just like the Bucks will have to adjust to those. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm excited to watch NBA basketball next week, though. We got the scrimmages going on, but it's nothing like when those real games start to count. So looking forward to that. Thank you all for listening. That's our take for the day, and you can find all Pro Sports takes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, or wherever you're listening to this right now, or even better if you're watching this on Pro Sports Outlook's YouTube channel.
And instead of just listening or even just watching, get involved yourself and leave a comment on what player or what team you want us to make takes about. You can tweet us at PSO_sports and use the hashtag ProSportsTakes. And we'll go through each of those responses and see if we can add some knowledge to the subjects you guys like.
And we'll see you all next week.
See y'all then.